This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
Hello, everybody. We're going to wait for a few more people to come on, and then, of course, Rob, and we'll get started. But I'm going to give you guys a little bit of breakdown if you don't know who I am, and a little bit about the podcast. So I want to welcome Santino. Santino is my co-host. So welcome, Santino. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing fabulous. How are you today, Jenny?
Of course, you know me. Never a complaint. Always great. Glad to see you here, my sweetie.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much for having me.
Of course, everybody, if you guys don't mind reposting the space, go down to the purple pill, just repost it and get some more people in here. We're going to have some good information today from Rob. So, real quickly, everybody, for those of you that don't know who I am Jenny. I'm the owner and the host of the Revival of America. I do probably about 4 to 6 podcasts on a weekly basis between my Telegram page and X over here. And then also I do some on the back side where people don't really necessarily want to go live with the podcast. I do mine live with the audience for reasons of everybody's voice is important, right? So not only is the guest important, what they have to say, but I like to have the audience interact with the guest as well so they can be heard also. Because my tagline is stand up, speak out, be heard. I did create the podcast for the people's voices to be heard, as well as for the children, because I've got a kids cast that goes behind this podcast that is all about the kids voices. So with that, everybody, I am being listened to in over 100 countries. So if you guys come into the podcast late here or on Telegram and you want to maybe send it to a friend or a family because you like what you heard, you can follow the podcast on the podcast hosts, which are iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Apple, Google, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Podbean, Riverside, Amazon Music. Also, I post everything on my social medias, and if you're not following any of them, please do, so then you can get the latest updates. Go to the social medias are Jenny Dreed Facebook, at Jenny underscore Dreed right here on X, at J Dreed Rumble, at J Dreed True Social, at J Dreed Instagram, the Revival of America on YouTube, the Revival of America on Telegram, and then the recent one is Locals is the Revival of America as well. Also, if you want to sign up for the newsletter, everybody, please do so. It is free. You get the latest updates on the podcast as well as the weekly show lineup. So check that out at therevivalofamerica.com and sign up for that newsletter so you can get that newsletter. We send it out every Monday pretty early, so you guys should have it, in your email when you wake up in the morning. Also, too, part of my podcast, everybody, is about your voices. It's important for you guys to share your voices, your stories, your journeys. So if you have a story or a journey you would like to share on the show, please email me at TROA submissions@yahoo.com. That stands for the Revival of America. We'll get your voices heard and your story heard. Because remember, it's your voices, your stories that are going to help shape this new world we're coming into. And I get a lot of emails. I think a lot of people think that I will tell the story for them. No, I want you guys, your voices, to tell the story because it's more authentic coming from you because it's your story and you're telling it. So please use your voice, everybody. Don't be afraid. I know many people have been concerned in the past because people don't like people don't like the truth, right? The truth kind of can be scary because we've seen a lot of people get harmed because they tell the truth. So don't be afraid, everybody. It's good to hear your voices. So again, that's TROA submissions@yahoo.com. So with that, everybody, we'll wait for Rob to come in, and then in the meantime, if you guys want to request a mic because you have a question for Rob, please do so. I will unmute your mic at some point in this podcast. So bear with us, everybody. We'll get started here shortly as soon as Rob gets in here. And Santino, you want to say anything in the meantime while we're waiting?
Something I was just reading something right now. President Trump officially signs the Halt Fentanyl Act into law, permanently classifying fentanyl related substance as a Schedule One drug under the Controlled Substance Act. So he just signed that. So that's just breaking right now. So that's phenomenal.
Oh, that's huge. Also, to everybody, I tell my audience, stay out of the noise, stay out of the BS. There's a lot of BS going on right now and a lot of these on these social media platforms. So stay out of the noise. There's a lot of distractions. A lot of this stuff is done on purpose to keep us distracted from what really is going on. Look here, when we speak, we should be looking over there, smoke and mirrors, right? So be careful, everybody. You got to be careful who you listen to, who you follow, and what you're putting into your mind. If you're not strong in the mind, get out of the comment boxes, get out of the lives, whatever it may be, get out of it. Because I'm seeing a lot of people that have been the Trumpers. Now they're, not the Trump supporters anymore. So really, were they Trump supporters? Or, you gotta watch for that. Because we're seeing a lot of the fakesters come out and be pretty much exposed. So that's good for us because now it'll give you more clarification of who not to follow, everybody. So please be careful what you're listening to and who you follow. If you have 3 to 5 people that have not led you wrong through the course of your journey here, stick and stay with them because more than likely they're going to get you through the rest of it. And we are nearing the end of this horror show and coming into the new. We still got a lot of work to do on the other side of this, everybody, but we are coming into a great, great world. So with that, hang in there, everybody. And first and foremost, keep your eyes on God, because at the end of the day, he has already won this battle. Santino, I'm going to reach out to Rob, make sure he didn't forget. So if you want to share anything, please do. And then I would like to say hi to Stellar. She's in the house. What's up, girly? All right, bear with me. I'm going to go message Rob real quick. Call him. Hang on.
No problem. So there's lots happening in the news. I think well, we have President Trump is reportedly planning on firing Chair Powell soon. Now where there's a little bit of a discrepancy, wondering if he has the capabilities of firing him. So we're going to see how that goes through. Lots happening. RFK has fired top aides of HHSS. That was breaking as well. There's a big, massive tweet that President Trump this morning. He's making it clear about the proposition and his behavior on the far left and the Epstein files. There is new scam in what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax, and my past supporters have bought into the bullshit hook, line, and sinker. So he is acknowledging and seeing the people that are actually, you know, steering the wrong way, going. So he's taking them as their past. They don't support him. They don't stand behind him, and they're not trusting him. So he's actually echoing that and making sure that people know that he's seeing this. Nearly 35% of U.S. food industry has committed to be removing from artificial dyes. I think Robert's doing a phenomenal job. He's going to finally get to 100%, and he's going to take care of it. It's going to take a while, and people are getting a little angry about that, saying, "Why is it not tomorrow? Like, why is it not right now?" This takes time because the product is out there and it needs to be taken off the shelves, or I don't know what they've agreed on to sell it, and then whatever's left, they're going to replace it with stuff that doesn't have the chemicals in it, the dyes, what have you. Um, there's so much going on, but I think it's really positive. I think we're still going in the right direction with everything. With any news that's being released right now, we're going into the positive direction, the right direction. We stand behind President Trump. Do not steer away from him. He knows what he's doing. I believe this as Epstein thing is so big that people don't understand the capacity that it holds. That there's lots of names attached to that list, and that would bring down every single thing. And right now, it's not the right time for him to do that. I trust his decision, and I stand beside him. So thank you, Jenny. That was just a quick little thing there.
Oh, amen. I'm glad you said that because I did read John, and pay attention to John Solomon, everybody. He's coming out and kind of letting everybody know what's going on with this whole situation with Epstein. And yes, everybody, it is bigger than people's emotions, their egos, and we can even wrap our minds around these Epstein and the Maxwells of the world. They're just the patsies of what the deeper picture is. And we can't even wrap our mind around it, everybody. So just hang in there and just don't fall because they are trying to splinter, as Alpha Warrior always says, the MAGA movement. And it's true. We've got the midterms coming up. It's not going to happen. I think it's just going to empower us even more. But that's what they're trying to do, is spreading this bullshit propaganda out there, and that's what it is. So pay attention, everybody. If you have these people like, yeah, hoorah, rah, Trump, 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 now they're jumping ship, they're crossing that other line, burning the Make America Great hats and all this other bullshit. It's just it's bullshit. We knew this was going to happen. We knew all along. There's a lot of fake podcasters out there, a lot of fake influencers, but now it's coming to a head where we're seeing them for really who they are. So really pay attention to that, everybody, and yeah, definitely pay attention to John Solomon as well if you're not already. Go ahead, Santino.
Yeah, and I want to be really firm with this and really echo this. You have to really look at everything, the whole entire picture. If what you have to question why the Democrats, the far left, is pushing this, why they want their, to release these files. Well, let me tell you this. If that's what they wanted, why didn't they do it when we were going up to elections and President Trump was going? And that was the perfect chance for them to do it. Why? Because their names are attached to that list. That is why. So you have to question that has been tampered with. Things have happened, and this is why that's happened. So remember, if I was a Democrat and I didn't want someone to go in power, I would have got that list and put it right there and exposed them. Well, they didn't do that because their names are attached to it. And from that time to now, something has been tampered with that list, whatever. And they're pushing back. So I just want to throw that out there. That's a giveaway. That's actually a giveaway right there, Jenny, of what I just said.
Also, too, everybody know that Trump and his team over there, they bait us as well because they want to know who's really the true Trump supporters, right? That are on Trump's side. So they're baiting us and putting stuff out there to see who's going to grab it and run with it and continue to spread the bullshit, or who's really truly in support of Trump. So you gotta be aware of that as well. Don't be so quick to jump on the first thing that you see, right? And then like I say, tighten up your circle. Pick your people that you want to follow and stick and stay with those people. If they're giving you good information, you resonate with it, you feel confident with it, stay with it, because I'm telling you, they're going to get you through this. But there's so much other stuff all behind all of that, just all the BS out there, that it does get confusing, and it's going to get more confusing, but you got to stay strong and what you resonate with and what stands true to you. But just be careful, everybody. Everybody's trying to be the first person to put it out. No, it's not even about that. Be the first person to get it correct and put it out there. But people are just jumping on these bandwagons, and it's really sad to see. Go ahead, Stellar.
Hey, Jenny. Hey, Santino.
Hello.
Thanks for sending me the invite to come in. I reposted. If everybody could repost, it would be wonderful if you did as we wait for Rob to come in. So I saw a post this morning, and I know that, for years now, if you kind of follow the Q stuff or whatever, not that, saying anything about it, but they always talk about the Trump card. Okay. And we've always been told What if this was the Trump card, the real Epstein stuff, compared to what the Democrats want coming out, which is the corrupt FBI, how they put their stuff together back to back, so it exposes, because didn't I mean, I'm getting nervous, but
You're good.
but what if, like, the real Trump, you know, NSA stuff, because, the Assange stuff, the Wiki, because we know about the WikiLeaks, Seth Rich, all this stuff is all coming out right now, and they all seem to have something to do with, Epstein and all the blackmail stuff and things. So, the Congress is saying, yeah, 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 let's go ahead and release it because they've doctored things up so that way they look like they haven't done anything. And, the Trump people look bad, which is all bullshit, which we know that because they already have everything. What if that whole thing was also a honeypot? And Epstein may be, because we all believe that he's still alive. What if he is the Trump card? Wouldn't that be magical?
I love it. Go ahead,
Oh,
Santini.
and okay, so
Oh,
right now, this is what I was trying to say. This is what I was trying to get to because now I'm doing like a trader girl thing. Sorry. So right now in Las Vegas, we have the World Championship of Poker going on. So like the Trump card, I keep thinking poker, and so right now everybody had, like, the deep state has their cards, and we've got, Trump has his cards, and he's got that Trump card, if you want to say whatever, Joker, whatever, the one that, whatever. What if that is the Trump card and it does feel like a poker type of thing, and we've got the World Championship of Poker going on here in Las Vegas? Sorry. Sorry.
I love how you think. I love it. Go ahead, Santino. Do you want to say anything to that?
No, I just want to bounce off what Stellar was saying. We have to really understand that President Trump has a full plate. I really want to echo this: a full plate. Every day, not only is he taking care of our country as well, he has a family, he has children, he has grandchildren. We have to understand, and his age as well. I mean, not only is he dealing with all the paperwork, getting all these things going through, he's also met with. I'm just reading it now. He met with the Crown Prince and Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Bahrain in the White House. So he's done that as well. They're dealing with the war. Israel has struck again. Syria this morning. But on top of that, he's also dealing with the Epstein thing again. So we have to really understand that right now, he does have a lot on his plate. He's doing the best that he can with what he can do. And I think he's doing a phenomenal job. So I want to applaud President Trump for what he's doing. I mean, when you think about his age and what he has to do, and then he has 24 surveillance around him all day. I mean, can you imagine living like that? We can't even handle getting bothered once in a while. Can you imagine 24/7? There are people around him everywhere, even standing outside the washroom. So I think we should actually have respect for the man, raise a glass to him. He's doing a phenomenal job. He's doing everything that we want him to do. Everything that we want him to do as a president. And I can't be any more proud.
I agree with you 100%, Santino, and also too, everybody. Look at what this Epstein thing is. This is leverage, everybody, for the Trump and his team. So no, everybody needs to know the difference. I mean, it's coming out. I mean, it's starting. The puzzle is starting to come together. You should be able to start to see it. I know I'm posting a lot of stuff. Alpha Warrior's posting a lot. We all are. Santino, we're all posting a lot of stuff to help people kind of come together and see the bigger picture here. So just remember, everybody, smoke and mirrors, a lot of leverage. What we're seeing, we're watching the art of war play out right under our noses. So if you're familiar with any of that, this is exactly what we're witnessing. So what I want to do here in the meantime, as
This
we wait
last
for,
thing, Jenny, one more thing.
oh,
When Rob gets in here, this is really big. I have to understand the capacity, how big this is. Anna Paulina Luna is saying that, the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, is going to be getting fired or stepping down. This is massive. You have to understand how big this is. It's stepping into the direction that we're going, the new golden age. It really ties into this. And Rob will explain this as well, Jenny. But I mean, we have to understand that there's going to be a bit of a hiccup. It's going to be hard times when this happens, but we're going to move all the way back up. So this is
well,
really massive news.
yeah, it is massive, but remember, John Solomon came out and said that Trump is not going to be firing him. And remember, if we get rid of the Fed, then that gets rid of Jerome Powell, right? So John Solomon corrected that. So again, I don't know. Is this another baiting us right now, guys? We
He,
don't know.
Jenny,
Let's
he
watch it.
can't. The
Hold on.
president can't. He can't fire him. That's
Correct.
the.
He right.
Yeah.
He right. He that's what I said. He gets rid of the Fed. That's how Jerome Powell either he steps down on his own or the Fed goes bye bye, which is huge. So just watch how this all plays out, everybody, because like Santino says, that is going to be huge. And so everybody here in the meantime, while we wait for Rob, I have not heard back from him. If you guys want to ask any questions to any of us, please feel free to request a mic. You're more than welcome to. But yeah, Stellar or Santino, you guys want to say anything while we wait? Because if he doesn't pop in here, guys, I'll probably end the space because I do have a day gig. I have other stuff that I could be doing. If he doesn't pop in here, he was going to give us 60 minutes of his time today. So, but yeah, if you guys want to request a mic and ask some questions, please feel free. Or otherwise, Santino or Stellar, you guys want to say anything?
If anybody could please go down to the purple pill that's at the bottom of your phone. Can you please like this space, like and share and request and quote and share the space, get some more people in here. If you want to request a mic, I will be glad to bring you up and you can ask some questions or any thoughts of or concerns you have. Jenny's here, Stellar's here, I'm here. We could do the best at answering them. Thank you.
Thank you, Santino. What about you, Stellar?
Oh, I was gonna say, because about what is going on right now, and I'm sure that Rob is totally swamped because with what just passed, with the new financial system, the FedWire ISO, which is huge, the Clarity Act, the Anti-CBDC Act, the Genius Act, all these things are going through right now. Congress, they just signed some other stuff today. So there's a lot of fast moving parts going on with the new financial system, XRP, the ledger, and all of that as well. So hopefully Rob gets in here and can fill you guys in so that you understand because he's so much better at explaining than me.
Well, you do a great job. I was just going to say this is actually your wheelhouse. But everybody, I did have a XRP show with Troy over on my Telegram page here a couple hours ago. So if you guys and he talks he talked a lot about the Genius Act, all these bills that they are passing, as Stellar just said. So if you guys want to check that out, I will be posting that here shortly up on my feed here, and you guys can check that out if you want to listen to it. A lot of great information on that as well. So Stellar, since this is kind of your wheelhouse, as we wait for Rob, if I don't know if there's a lot that you can share within the XRP world that you want to share. Anything that maybe you can enlighten the audience on.
Okay, so a lot of this stuff with what's going on has to do with the central banking and how settlements are, like border, cross border and international, like international borders and stuff like that, institutional banks, treasuries, or however they're going to have their country set up. So that's part of what this whole thing is. And the ISOs are the 2022, which is the messaging. It's kind of like a messaging service, but it's like it speaks the language as far as these different pathways. And the Ripple one, the Ripple ledger is what's really huge with the lawsuit. And it looks like that SEC Ripple thing will be coming to an end soon if it hasn't already, which is a huge thing because that'll give clarification and then we can get some regulations and stuff like that set up. So it'll, because we're not going to have a central banking. And, so yeah, the Federal Reserve, it's replacing SWIFT for the cross border. And then within our system, we're not going to be stuck with having to use our banks and using, the cash system, which isn't worth anything today. It'll be asset backed and things. And so it'll all speak the same language. Does that make sense? And so these acts are very, very important. The Genius Act, the Big Beautiful Bill was very important to pass because, now things are moving a lot faster because through the Biden administration for 4 years, things were pretty much put on hold here in the US because that was part of how they were trying to crash the American economy and financial system. But we're good.
Also, too, Stellar, can you maybe talk about, because Rob talks about, many people talk about, the CBDC. We're not going to be coming into that. Can you maybe touch on that a little bit?
Absolutely. So part of this thing that just went through today that they passed was the CBDC not in the United States. So right now we pay everything through our dollar. It's a centralized system. So we're using cash, we're using our credit cards, whatever, to pay for things. It's on a false type of a system. What we're moving into is going into a system that's going to be asset backed, and it's going to be valued. So it's not based on debt. Um, so with the CBDC, everything goes through Federal Reserve Bank. Like if you buy a house and the bank wires money to pay the mortgage so that you get stuck with the bill type of a thing, any kind of that stuff goes all through the Federal Reserve Bank. And then it comes to, because it's a centralized system. What we're moving into is we're going into the stable coins. So there's going to be at least 3 different stable coins that will be regulated. They have to fit a certain type of regulation, and they meet that. And so with Ripple, who is the owner, if you want to say, and escrows, they just put their in for the FDIC because they did buy a bank. They also have an exchange. You know, so with a stable coin, you won't, if you want to use the RLUSD, you can. The banks may be using that. Who knows? More than likely they are. There's USDC. So there's multitudes of different stable coins that will be pinned to the US dollar, and you won't be tied to just one. Like Amazon is stating that they want to have their own stable coins. So each different things will be different modes of payment. You don't have to use a banking system. You can be an unbanked person, and then the controls of your money, you're in control of, not the banking system or government or whoever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And also too, everybody, I think we need to understand too when it comes to XRP, because I believe that's going to be the bridge coin of the world. It's going to be peer-to-peer transaction, everybody. I don't know if you guys realize it, but Dubai right now is already doing their first real estate actions with XRP. So that's huge. It's eliminating the middleman. So all these middlemen people that we have, escrow, title, mortgage, real estate agents, we're going to be able to do it peer to peer from me to Stellar, and within a matter of seconds, that transaction can take place. So I don't think people understand the greatness of what's going to happen. All these middlemen that we have that collect the fees in the middle just to get a house done or get your car or whatever, they're all going to go away. We are going to be our own bank. We're going to be able to do our own transactions peer to peer. So this is huge, everybody. So if you don't know about Dubai doing their first real estate transactions over there, check into it, because that is huge. And we are a small percentage, a very small percentage of people that know about XRP. And once XRP is gone, everybody, you're not going to be able to get XRP. So pay attention to that. Go ahead, Stellar. I see your
Oh,
hands.
there it goes. Okay, yeah, I was trying to unmute and it wasn't unmuting. So the other thing is XRP is a currency. So you can use it as money and purchase things with it, or you can hold on to it generationally, thank you. Generationally for your children and your grandchildren by holding on to it. So once these regulations, I mean, you can do it now and pair up and wrap them and earn interest every, whatever their thing is. So anywhere from 12 to 20%. I choose not to do it right now because we don't have the regulations set in motion. But as time goes on, you can wrap them. You can have the passive income from, the interest, because use it as real estate. I think because I'm a broker here, or a broker salesperson here in Las Vegas. So I sell real estate. So I think of it as real estate. Instead of having a house that you're renting or leasing out, you're renting out your XRPs and you're making passive income on it. When the terms are up, you get your XRPs back, and they've used them for whatever they need to do. So I think of it as more as it's a utility, kind of like electricity, water. It's a utility, and these are the tokens, the ISO tokens. So XRP, XDC, XLM, all of these ISO tokens they all work together. And then also understanding that the real world assets, which speak the same language as the ISOs, because as time goes on, they're going to be building up, but these native tokens will always be needed, so you can hold on to them without selling these assets. And you can give them, you'll be able to buy a house with them, like they said, but not use up your XRPs. Your loan, you can have them, say the bank or the mortgage company, wrap them up, and what you make on dividends, make the terms and stuff like that. And once, they, got the mortgage paid or whatever, you get your XRPs back. Does that make sense? You leverage them and you keep them.
Yeah, 100%. And also too, through these peer-to-peer transactions. And for those of you that are wondering, I don't know, Rob, I don't know what happened. He might have got caught up into something. I have messaged him, reached out to him a couple times. So we're waiting for him to pop in. But in the meantime, we're just chatting about some stuff. So if you guys have a question, please request a mic. He was going to give us 60 minutes. So maybe I'll just give you guys a 60 minutes and we can chat away up here. But because Stellar is this is really kind of her wheelhouse, so she can talk a lot on this. And but Stellar, can you talk a little bit, because there's smart contracts that we're going to be doing peer to peer with, and how that's all going to roll out, and then there's going to be that Oracle based fact checker basically looking into these peer to peer contracts. Can you talk a little bit on that?
Okay, so the Oracle, a lot of each of these different tokens, so like XRPs on the XRP ledger, Stellar is the ledger type of thing for the XLM, okay, lumens. IOTA has its own Oracle, so and XDC has its own Oracle. So right now, XDC is building up their systems, and you can be a part of that system being built up, whether it's in the Oracle. On the XDC, you can go into their platform and you can buy their law books. It's about 13 cents a token. That's like their smart contracts, if you want to say. And the smart contract is it's like your signature, their signature, verifications, and stuff like that. There are a lot of scammers on these platforms, and I'm going to say this, whether you're on Telegram, whether you're on X, if you get a DM from someone that you have not contacted directly, and they try to chit chat with you, they want to have you attach your wallet, they try to get your secret keys, block and report them. They are scammers. If someone says, "Hey, Patriot," did you know that the financial system's going into the quantum financial system? You need to make sure you have the correct wallet, da 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 da. That's all BS. If you have an account through Uphold and you have your, the locked vault over there, you're fine. You hold the keys. If you have a cold storage wallet, you have the keys. Get them off of the exchange because it's in a big pool. Put them in your thing. Never share them. Never share them, because you are the bank. Those seed words, your private key is the key to the vault, the key to whoever you are. So mine would be, Bank of Stellar. So, if I lose them, if I give them away and I lose everything, I don't know what the security systems are set up. I'm sure that they will. I mean, I think that that's what CISA is, and Secret Service will be a part of it. Who knows when things go on? But just never share them and never keep them stored on your phone. That's all. That's super important. I just want everyone to know, never share those words. If you can put them on a cold storage, do that. If you have questions, make sure you DM who you trust, but never. It doesn't matter. My kids don't even have the words to my vault. They'll get that after I die. So don't share them with anybody. Don't have them electronically. Put them written down in different places that you'll never forget where they're at, because if you lose them, you're the custody of everything. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that, Stellar. Santino, do you want to add anything to that? You want to chime in? And any of you guys, seriously, raise your hand. Request a mic if you want to speak. Let's roll here, because yeah, I've got if we can't, if we don't make the space, if we don't have questions, then I'll probably pop off, guys, because I do, like I said, I have a day gig, and if Rob doesn't come in, I'll probably go do some work for that. So go ahead, Santino, if you want to add to. Are you there? Woohoo!
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Thank you. I just switched to my earphones. I'm listening to Stellar speak. I always think back at all these years I've gone by where I've witnessed, clients, friends, and family when they were purchasing homes or purchasing commercial properties, right? They had to scrounge and find the down payment because, the bank always said you have to have a certain amount down. But furthermore, you put this money down and then you had to choose from between a 5 to 10 to 15, even a 30-year mortgage, and they were kind of coercing you into that. They wanted you to go into that 30-year mortgage or that 10-year mortgage. So the longer the better. The longer you owe the money, the you owe them money, the more they're going to make more interest. And that's how it's always been. When I speak about this, I kind of speak about it more like so you can understand. I'm not going to give you those big massive words because you know what, you might not get it, and that's fair enough because sometimes I don't get it myself. But when you purchase properties, you sit there and say, okay, I'm going to purchase something. I'm going to put a certain amount of money down, and I'm going to sign a 10-year mortgage because you know what? It's okay. That means I don't have to pay the whole thing off. But that's the mentality they want you to have. The problem is when you're putting that biweekly payment or that monthly payment, what happens is pennies go to your principal. The rest goes in their pockets. That's the middleman, right? We have to get rid of the middleman. They want to keep you on debt. They always told us years, not just the past 10, 15, 20 years, centuries. They told them that we're on your side. We're working for you. We're the bank. We're here for you. No, they're not. I think as time has went by, I think that they've actually gone more off our side. I think they work for the government. They work for the feds. The central, it's privately owned. So you see people now that have had a mortgage and they've refinanced it 2, 3, even 4 times because inflation goes up and they need money. So they go into the equity of the home, they take that money out and they use it, but it puts them back farther in debt. And of course, the bank is there willing to give them the money. Absolutely. Because they know right away that that money is going to give them more interest, more money in their pockets. And it's always this kind of like slave, slave, slave. There's a reason also why there's a penalty when you pay that mortgage off. So you say, you got your inheritance, or you won the lottery, or you worked your friggin' ass off for 1 year. You have this extra money you want to put down there. They always give you that 10% once a year that you can do that, right? And there's no penalty because they want to pretend that they're on your side. But at the end, when you have that money to put down and pay that mortgage off, there is always a penalty because they're so pissed off because they do not want you to pay your mortgage. They want you to keep it. They want you to continue. They want to take every single thing from you. They want to do it professionally, but they want to make sure they're always making money off you. If you are out of debt, that's not a good thing for them. They don't want to see people that are out of debt. They want to see you in debt. That's why credit cards are crazy. That's why people are maxed out. And there was a time, and listen, I'm going to tell you histrionics here. There was a time I had a full-time job, and I was making good salary, and they wouldn't even give me a credit card. But now they're just giving it to anybody. They're giving them like candy. Here, you're 16 years old, have a credit card. I mean, why would you be giving someone 16 a credit card? You'd have to earn that. You have to show that you're capable of paying those things off. That's why American Express always had this thing where at the end of the month, you had to pay the amount that you were owing. They wanted to have that thing. And that's why a lot of businesses, small and pop shops, didn't want to accept American Express. I didn't accept it in my salons and spas. Anyway, furthermore, I just want to add that because I think that people have to understand whether it's a commercial property, whether it's a home, whether it's a car, every time you go in there and you actually borrow money, they are so happy to give it to you because they are going to make interest off that. And they will want you to, I heard this story and I'm not going to know if this is my last thing. I don't know if I can articulate the way she said it, but I knew somebody who had a mortgage and they offered her a line of credit. And they said, you have this mortgage and you have this debt. How about we give you this line of credit? You could pay your mortgage off and you could pay this debt off. And all you have is this line of credit. And she said, sure. Well, guess what? That line of credit was only locked in for a year and that interest rate went up. So now she's going to lose her condo. That's how clever. And when I say clever, I say that very loosely. That's how clever they are. I mean, she should have stayed with the mortgage because it was locked in for 5 years. No, she went to a line of credit, which was only locked in for a year, and the interest rate was, and then variables. Variables, I'm not crazy about variables. I never have been. I'm very old school. I like gold and silver in my hand, not in the air, but that's just me. But on variables, I would really stay away from variables because you just don't know what they're going to do. It's going to go up and down, up and down. And that's like, that's like gambling. You just never know. And I've seen many, many people lose their homes because the variable change. And that's because, we have people like Powell in charge. Anyway, so I just want to throw that
And
out there. Yeah, go
and
ahead.
yeah, and a lot of people, Santino, when they go in and they do these home loans, because I'm former mortgage real estate, they don't explain these forms that these people are signing. They just, sign them free willy because they trust that other person on the other end. So yeah,
Oh,
it's yeah, you got to pay attention to that. Thank you for that, Santino.
yeah, and there's one more thing, just because you were talking about real estate and that middleman and stuff. I remember when that year came out. I think it was in 2021. I think it was, where the market, the interest rate just went down to, like, I couldn't believe it, a 3%, 2.5%, and everyone went crazy. They were all buying these homes because they were flipping them, renovating them, or whatever. And then, of course, I knew that it was going to go back up again. So all these people had these properties that they just finished renovating. They were going to flip them. And they couldn't because the interest rate went up. Real estate agents are really, and I'm not going to throw that out there because not all of them are bad, but there is a lot of, it's the greed, right? They have this thing like, let's have multiple offers, and they play the clients against each other. They know what the other client, like your real estate agent knows what's on the table from the person that's selling the property, let's say, but they're going to try to get you to spend more money. How is that fair? How is somebody that you're giving them a percentage of your sale or your purchase? How is it that they're playing you? This, I've seen people pay. Let's say the condo or the house is $600,000, and they pay $600,000 and $100 because their agent told them, you better ask, or you better give what they're asking and just a little bit, top it up a little bit more, because I have a feeling they're coming in. In fact, I think they have come in at the asking price. Meanwhile, the person who put the asking price, their purchase, their amount in, was like $100,000 less. That's why we have to really be careful, because the greed is so real in the world. And agents, I mean, I've seen them in my chair. I've seen them walk around. It's like they're salivating. It's I'm embarrassed for them. Let's put it that way.
Thank you, Santino. And real quickly, Rob has
Rob's
entered
here.
the house. Everybody, what's up, Rob?
Oh my God, I owe everybody the first shot of whiskey or beer or wine. Today is
I
just,
love a martini, Rob.
you can have chocolate martini, espresso martini, anything you want. First tab's on me. Okay. So I'm so sorry, Jenny. Apologize for my tardiness. It's just one of the days in the record books. Okay. So hopefully we'll get to talk about it a little bit.
Well, we figured, a lot of stuff's coming out, so we figured that you were kind of maybe tied up with a lot of that. But real quickly, because I know you did tell me you had 60 minutes to give today. So where do we stand? Are you still 60 minutes, or are you just got the 20 minutes to go?
Let me check real quick. No, I can go another 60 minutes if you need. That'll be fine.
All right. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Real quickly, Beverly, I know you requested a mic. Did you have a question for Stellar, myself, Santino, or did you want to direct it at Rob? Are you there, Beverly?
Hi. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. No, I'm glad Rob's here. I was going back to what you were talking about. I just noticed that the Wall Street banksters barcoded AMC and GME again today. But my question is for Rob is, I bought everything on Uphold. I hope that's still okay to keep it on that exchange. Thank you.
Well, Beverly, it's a great question, and I get that question all the time. The old adage that perfection is the enemy of good enough. And look, I can't speak as an absolute technologist, as an absolute cryptographer, and say that there's no chance in hell that there could be a breach in any solution. Cold storage, custodial, centralized exchange, double, secret, you know, decentralized wallets, Anchorage Digital, hell, standard custody. I mean, these are human systems that could potentially be compromised by human systems. I mean, but at the end of the day, um, I use Uphold. Um, I'm comfortable with it. I have most of my holdings on a cold wallet, on a very secure cold wallet. But for trading purposes and exchange and liquidity, I use Uphold. Uphold's partners with Ripple. They're looking to go. The rumors are out there that Ripple may want to purchase them. These guys at Ripple only buy the highest quality, institutional grade, marquee type organizations that match their culture and standards. So that's another. I've been a Ripple. I mean, been an Uphold customer for 5 years, and I'm personally comfortable. It's not financial advice. It's not security advice or technology advice or law advice, but that's just you know that's what I do.
Me too.
Thank you, Beverly. All right, Santino, go for it, my friend.
Sorry, I was just trying to find the mic. Could everybody please go down to the purple pill? That is the bottom right of your phone. Can you please like the space, like you share the space, and can you please quote share space? We have well over, I can't see right now, but anyway, we have 33 retweets. Let's get that back up. We have Rob here, who is a phenomenal man, has a wealth of knowledge, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who would love to come in here and listen to him. And if you want to request a mic, you're more than happy to request a mic. Please come up. We'll bring you up, but just keep your mics muted and raise your hand, and we'll come to you when Jenny or Rob is ready. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Santino. Check your DMs, please, as well. All right, Rob. So I'm so glad that you're here. And I would like for you to kind of go over a little bit, real briefly, about what you're seeing, what's going on. I mean, we're coming into some greatness. We've got XRP; it's been going up. Um, yeah, we've got shoot, what Ripple isn't Ripple in escrow right now? I mean, so much is going on, but this is your wheelhouse, so I'm not going to step on that. But yeah, take it away. Talk to us, Rob. Talk to us. It's exciting.
It is so absolutely exciting, Jenny, and I try to break down what can be complex into just a narrative. I love, one of my idols, I guess, was always Mark Twain, and that he was a master storyteller. And how do we take vast, comprehensive, globally connected stories with, a gazillion moving parts and put it into narrative form over the kitchen table? So I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and let me just paint a mental picture for everyone. Um, President Trump came down the escalator in 2015, immediately started talking about fake news because, in essence, the father of lies has to lie and has to have a methodology to do that, has to have a mechanism, has to have a distribution network. It can be person to person, or it can be in the family, or it can be in the community, the schoolroom. But the most powerful, far reaching ways to lie and deceive and confuse people and is through media. And we have four conglomerates, global conglomerates, that control about 90+% of all media. So why, we have to ask yourself, why would a guy who wants to run for president immediately come down the escalator and start talking about fake news and pick a fight with people he knew were going to lose their ever loving minds? And we saw that. We saw every comedian, we saw every actor, we saw every politician, we saw everybody laugh and mock and ridicule and act like this guy's a clown. He's a carnival barking, multi-failed business talk show television host, twice, 3 times married loser. And yet he wins. So you have to almost ask yourself, if those that control the most powerful mechanisms and systems on earth wanted to get rid of this man by mockery and derision, why? What were they scared of? Why did they feel like they had to do an all hands on deck call to destroy this man? Well, my operating belief has always been that President Trump was recruited and volunteered and went on active duty to take the head off the beast, and that's central banking. Central bankers own everything on the earth. They create the money system, they pervert the money system, they leverage the money system, they create these things called nations that are actually corporations. They hire the politicians that we call lawmakers, quote unquote. They generate the legal system with all of their fiat rules and codes and statutes and chicanery. They at the root of the military industrial complex and the media industrial complex and the medical industrial complex and the religion industrial complex and the academia industrial complex is money. Who owns those corporations? Who hires those people? Who allows people to talk about climate change or not talk about climate change? Who tells us our kids need 165 shots between birth and 18? Why do we believe what we believe, and who gets to control that process? It's central banking, the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. So, if you really wanted to turn the world upside down and get rid of our debt slavery system, you'd have to get rid of the institution that generates debt slavery. And that would be the central bankers. They're founded in Marxism, they're founded in atheism. They create fake money through fiat debt production. It's actual debt, but it's fiat money. And what we've been spending our whole lives is this thing called a Federal Reserve note, which is an IOU to the issuer, which is the Federal Reserve. That's who we owe 37 trillion plus to, is a private Marxist bank that's an NGO in the UK, not even the UK, in England and in the city of London, an NGO corporate sovereign entity running an NGO private for-profit debt enslaving bank that all the nations in the world have adopted because of the world reserve currency. So 3 weeks into office, President Trump signs Executive Order 13772, and there's 7 core principles for reconstituting the American monetary system, the financial system. 8 years later, we're signing all of those things into law this week. We have XRP is not a security. They tried to say that it was. We beat the SEC. They tried to put CBDCs in place, and they have an anti-CBDC act. They wanted to keep printing money into oblivion, and we have an RLUSD that requires one-to-one backing of tier 1 assets, which are like U.S. Treasury dollars and or gold, issued or approved by the New York Department of Financial Services, audited every 30 days with attestations that there is one-to-one, 100% backing for every RLUSD ever put into circulation. Well, Ripple Labs USD is now a fully sound digital dollar backed by tier 1 assets, gold or US Treasury dollars or US Treasury notes. Well, now we have a dollar that's a digital dollar that'll work interoperably among other countries around the world, and it's based on a system that uses XRP to give us absolute certainty in the ledgering, in the transfer of wealth, in the atomic settlement. The books are transcribed in seconds in hundreds of locations, no matter where that digital dollar is used or traded or transports itself. In seconds, the record keeping is perfect. There's not my set of books and the Fed set of books and the CIA set of books and the USAID's set of books and the 55,000 NGOs that the CIA and the USAID fund with fake money, all of their books. There's that chicanery dies this week when we have these three new laws put into place. So, what does sound money, honest accounting, real assets, and true property rights accounted for through a system of quantum computing, cryptography, immutable property rights, unalienable rights to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness? When we can transcribe all of that on a master ledger, and every nation in the world believes in or trusts that master ledger because they can trust the ledger because it's not the trust is not dependent on human trust. It's not dependent on human variables. If something gets transcribed onto a ledger, then it gets transcribed on 150 ledgers. And they're all exactly identical copies. And you can't hack 195 ledgers and change the books. And China doesn't need to trust whether we recorded things correctly or not. They can see it. Brazil can see it. Italy can see it. Japan can see it. Qatar, the UAE, everybody can see this interoperable ledger and this scorecard that can't be perverted. So now the world can operate on a level playing field
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
with sound money recorded on a system of trustlessness, and we can all just compete and trade without currency wars, market manipulations, exchange rate perversions, and weaponizing the monetary system to turn us all into debt slaves. Now the system is built and going into law this week that honors us as unalienable, sovereign citizens with property rights and the ability to accumulate wealth and pass it on to our kids and our kids' kids and not be indentured servants to a bunch of corporations that are actually they called nations, but they're actually corporations. And it breaks us free of debt slavery. So other than that, there's not much going on this week.
Damn it. I was hoping you were going to give us more. I'm kidding. All right. CPAT Fish, your hand is up. Go ahead. And then Health and Wealth, you can go after CPAT.
Hey, Rob, how are you doing?
Patrick, my friend, great to hear your voice.
Oh, it's good to be heard. Hey, just want to thank you for reiterating. I constantly listen, and it cements in my mind. But I was listening to an interview today because what we've done here over the years, and a lot of us, many, some of us new, is the right side of our brain and the discernment that we've collected through the research that we've done is one side, and then that left side, that 10% keeps pulling us back in. So it's kind of like a balance beam. And so it was funny. I was watching or listening to an interview today, and it was John Solomon. It was talking about the Bobby Knight card. You know, the referees out there, all the agitators, all the fake MAGA on this Epstein thing and all these other things that we hear. So we have to remember that Trump was interviewed and he said, yeah, I'd like to lose it all someday so I can find out who's loyal to me. So when
Yes.
Trump's playing the Bobby Knight on all these fake MAGAs, he's playing the Bobby Knights. Now, do they know it? Some of them do, but some of them pretty much don't know if it's on the left or the right side of the brain, and yet they're being played like a referee. Anyway, Rob, thanks for everything. And then also one other thing, you know, when they're talking about Jerome Powell, you know, yeah, well, you know, he was referred to me by Steve Mnuchin. I'm sorry, by Steve Mnuchin, and then Santino will confirm who Steve Mnuchin is and what his role is. Anyway, guys, beautiful. Jenny, you put it up. I love it. Thanks so much.
Thank you,
Aw,
Pat.
thanks,
Thank you,
Patrick.
Patrick. Hey, I want to give a trivia note for the crowd. If anybody doesn't ever seen the movie The Accountant, uh, really good action-packed movie, and it's deep. And you want calms, and you want to scratch your head, and you want to look at it with a whole new set of optics. The executive producer of the movie The Accountant is Steve Mnuchin.
Oh wow, I love it. Hey, you know what, Rob? There's an Accountants 2 out now. So have
There
you
is.
seen
I've
that
seen them
one?
both. I've
Okay.
seen them both. They're both good.
Is Steve Mnuchin the producer on that one too?
I'm not sure. I'm going to hesitate because I'm not sure if he did or didn't produce
Well,
that one. But
we are watching one big scripted movie, so grab your popcorn, everybody. You know, we're gonna enjoy the ride. All right, Mr. Health and Wealth, go ahead.
Hey, how everybody doing? Thanks, Jenny. Let me speak. Santino. Hey, Miss Stella. Rob, my brother, how are you?
my brother, I'm better now that I'm listening to you. It sounds like you're either at work, going to work, or coming home from work.
Well, getting ready for work. I'm walking, getting my daily walk with the Doug first. 45 minutes. But I'm just listening in to you. Seeing Jenny was having you on, so I couldn't miss this. I just figure, I just wanted your opinion on what you think about these XRP ETFs and what do you think that might do to the price. And also, just for people here that may not know, can you kind of explain to them, like, how XRP works, going to be working with, like, all the ISO 20022s and, like, how this is big for the ecosystem by November when all banks have to, use the ISO 22 to communicate. And that's it. Other than that, man, appreciate you, man. Love what you do. Love y'all for having this space. I'm an XRP maxi. I love XRP. I'm in love with it. So thank you so much for letting me speak.
Brother, I love you, man. Thank you so much for all that you do. You're in the smoke room all the time. You're a huge advocate. And man, if I just get mentioned on the same paragraph or page with Smoke Dog, I feel honored because that guy's a legend. If everybody on the space is not following Smoke, it's SMQKEDQG. He's one of the best, just OG originators, and everything this man posts has got a receipt to it. It's got an attachment. It's got a document. It's highlighted. It might be found on page 614 of a 1,200 page document, but I don't know how he does it. But he's one of the most prolific, researchers and uh, man of just unbelievable work ethic and infatigable work ethic. So Smoke Dog is, I think, maybe what brought me and health, wealth, and abundance together. That's our common denominator. Um, you know, uh, gosh, XRP solves the quintessential accounting, standardization, uh, trustlessness issues, the ability for people to operate on an interoperable, trusting basis the world over. Let me break this down a little bit. In essence, money is nothing but a trust system. It's a ledgering system. That's what money is supposed to be. I owe you and you owe me. I have a credit or I have a debit, an asset or a liability. Now, what is that asset is important. It's got money is supposed to be, a store of value, a medium of exchange, and a trusted account that all people agree has a certain amount of value. So it's got to be held. The record book has to be accurate and honest. There has to be trust that, I do owe you 4 bushels of corn and you do owe me, 2 bits of silver. We have to know that the records are correct, that the assets are of equal value to both parties concerned. And that's it. We can get sophisticated. We can call things derivatives and options and puts and calls and, you know, contracts and annuities and everything in the world we want, treasuries, T-bills, you name it. Okay. But it's either an asset or a liability, and I either own it or I owe it. And that's it. So, how money changer systems happen and how people get their wealth stolen from them is a perversion of those fundamental elements. People will, shave off the edges of a gold coin and tell you it's an ounce when it's only, 15/16 of an ounce. Or they'll tell you that they lent you $8 and they really only lent you 6. Or they'll attach a usury interest, or they'll create a gold bar with lead in the middle of it. And it's not really the store value that you thought it was. You weigh it, you think it's genuine, and it's not, it's counterfeit. And so trust is the singular absolute entity that's required for the trust system to be an honest trust system with honest accounting and an honest store of value so that we can all interoperate in a fair manner. There's equal respect for everyone. XRP often, or XRP in my mind, if you will, is a solution to all of those trust issues. It operates on the idea of quantum math and trustlessness. Quantum computing, distributed ledger technology, validation that both parties involved in a transaction are who they say they are, and that when value or property transfers from one party to another, the record is automatically, immutably settled and indisputable, is duplicated the world over, and what I owe Health Wealth or what Health Wealth owes me is a matter of public record, and we don't have to have an intermediary in between and tell us whether, it's the books are good or any of that. It mathematically brings trust into the equation where trust has been stolen from us since 1913. This fake money system, these fake bankers, these fractional reserve lenders that charge usury interest on fiat Federal Reserve notes that they print out of thin air, and then they get us to sign up for a 30-year mortgage, and we have to then work for 30 years to pay off that mortgage, that debt pledge. They tell us to celebrate, go getting the mortgage. They create money out of thin air. We go get a $500,000 mortgage or $300,000 mortgage, and we got to spend 30 years paying it off, paying them 8% interest on something that cost them nothing to print out of thin air. So we wonder how we're in debt slavery because we're taught to celebrate that mortgage so that it enriches the bankers. Isn't it funny? Just by the way, I saw a note yesterday that one of the posts that President Trump put out that he basically, as loud and as clearly as he possibly could, accused Adam Schiff of grotesque mortgage fraud for repeatedly declaring his primary residence in Maryland and many times over refinancing his primary Maryland residence so he could get lower interest rates because he called it his first home and his primary residence when he's a senator in California. It can't be, Maryland can't be your primary residence. Your primary residence has to be the state you represent. So I don't think Adam Schiff thought he was going to go down for mortgage fraud, but time will tell, won't it? There's a clear example of how people can lie and cheat and game the system and get caught. So the ISO messaging standard, it's a protocol. Okay, there's no ISO certified token because ISO doesn't issue certification. It issues standards and messaging protocols. Companies on their own volition can make commitments to engineer all of their operations and all of their systems and processes to meet the standards that have been established by the International Standards Organization, which is what ISO stands for. So ISO 20022 standards is the highest level of protocol principles, if you will, that if people will meet those, then in every transaction between any bank, any treasury, any financial institution, any conglomerate like a Apple Store or an Amazon or a Microsoft or a community credit union, anywhere in Kenya, anywhere in Italy, anywhere in Indiana, organizations that will adopt and or interoperate with other organizations that have both or mutually agreed and certified that their protocols meet those ISO 20022 standards, mean those entities are ready for, distributed ledger technology, digital assets, real world assets, tokenization, the movement of sound money, the movement of, commodities, stocks, gold, silver, whatever the case may be. So what Health Wealth is asking me is how important really is it that this ISO 20022 protocol is adopted? And what happens to those that don't adopt it? What happens to institutions that say, whatever, I'm going to be casual about it? Well, they're going to lose a competitive advantage and they're going to lose a tremendous amount of market share. And they very well might not even find themselves in business down the road. I mean, it's like you either want the very best pilots or you want just mediocre. I can get if he can fly the plane and land it, that's good enough for me. Or do you want somebody that was a Top Gun pilot that flew and has 5,000 hours and a perfect flying record? If you're running a company, you're going to want to try to find the highest, skilled people or operate at the highest level of standards and principles that you possibly can. So companies have a choice to adopt those ISO standards for interoperability and for preferred rates and for all the other benefits that come with it, or basically find themselves wanting and getting their butt kicked on the in the free marketplace. So health wealth, did I answer all the questions that enough, or did I miss something?
No, sir, you did a great job. I basically was just trying to help, you educate probably the audience on things that, we already know, we learn in the smoke room. So you did great. I'm sure that, you taught them something that they probably didn't know. One last thing I wanted, before I go ahead and step down, and give up the room up here and let somebody else speak. This last question, basically not just for me, but for, other people in the room that might not know. When it comes to like Jerome Powell, and we hear Trump, keep calling him out, and I guess the average American or average person would want to know, well, why won't Trump just fire this guy, get rid of him, And can you explain like why he probably can't, and the power that Jerome Powell has when it comes to this Federal Reserve, and how that ultimately this is what people like me and you understand, like that the Federal Reserve is just in our way and really holding us all down as Americans. And that's it. And I appreciate you, Rob. I love when I hear you speak and how you explain things, and you do a great job, man. And like I said, Jenny Santino, thank you for having the space. I love you guys. And I'm gonna drop down, Rob, and let you do your thing. And I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and continue my workout before I go to work. Thanks a lot. Peace and blessings to all y'all.
Peace
Thank you,
and
Health and Wealth. Go
peace
ahead,
and
Rob.
blessings to you, brother. Yeah. Yeah, for people that don't quite understand the whole structure and how, America got perverted into a corporate entity and not really a republic, we lost our constitutional bearings in 1871. We became, the Organic Act. And after the Civil War, there was a big, we were broke and bloodied. And uh, people that were generals that were fighting wars weren't necessarily venture capitalists and good businessmen. Some of them might even tip the bottle a little bit too much, but long and the short of it is, we signed off on reconstituting or rebuilding America because we were dead broke. But the venture capitalists that wrote the deals and the contracts up basically turned America into a piece of property owned by the Crown Corporation in the Vatican. And their headquarters became the District of Columbia. Half of that property was donated by Virginia and half by Maryland. And we have a 10 square mile District of Columbia that was really the headquarters for the owners of this nation formerly known as the United States of America. And it became all capital letters United States of America Inc. And then they had to have a bank to handle all of their claims, if you will, the monies owed them. So they had to fight like hell and scheme and plot and go in the darkness and go into Jekyll Island in 1910 and put all of these nefarious central banking bastards in place and come up with the Federal Reserve Act. They had to get their president, their Herbert Hoover, into office by hook or by crook and get this Harvard academic Northeastern liberal into office. And part of his condition to become president was he was going to have to play ball with these bankers, and he did. He signed the Federal Reserve Act into place, and that gave us the income tax and the IRS. And from there, if you understand that what a non-government organization is, the Federal Reserve is a non-government organization. It's an institution operated out of the City of London, which is a sovereign territory. It's not a treasury. They don't issue American dollars. They issue debt notes. And in essence, we are the collateral that underwrite those Federal Reserve notes. Used to be, we had a treasury that would issue a dollar backed by a certain weight of gold and silver. But when they took over and we started leasing the money system from them at interest, and they ran the monetary system. Well, they had to have the big guy come in, the head of the Federal Reserve, the Federal Reserve chairman, come in and run their system. Well, the Federal Reserve chairman doesn't run anything that's American. The Federal Reserve chairman runs the foreign bank, known as the Federal Reserve, that's headquartered in the City of London. And we want to know how we owe $37 trillion to the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the owners of the central bank. That's how that works. President Trump is hinting to all of us that this whole system is going away. We're going to have our treasury back. We're going to have our sound money back. We're going to have control over our assets again. We're going to have a treasury that never needed a Federal Reserve. There's no Federal Reserve in our Constitution or in our Bill of Rights or in our Declaration of Independence. It's not there. This is a debting organization for profit run by a bunch of Marxists, and the whole ideology of debt instruments that are printed out of thin air with fractional reserve lending and usury interest rates and market manipulations and the weaponization of the monetary system, and then converting this US system into the world reserve currency. Now you have almost every nation in the world having to reverse engineer their economies and their financial markets and their financial systems to be in alignment with the most powerful country in the world, which is America. So when we start looking at globalism and we start looking at the US dollar and why it's so important, we have to understand these people in the media, when they say US dollar, they're lying to us or they're misleading us. They should be saying Federal Reserve note. And most people don't understand, how do we collapse the old system and get rid of this fake counterfeit fiat money and stand up a new system like an RLUSD, which is backed by tier one assets in gold and
Rob,
managed by and supervised by the Treasury.
Rob, Rob,
How do
Rob,
we?
Rob, I
Yeah,
wanted to have you explain, if you don't mind, because now you're in this part where, because Jenny had brought up, and I was trying to hold it down, but you were so much more eloquent on answering this. So I was just going to repeat Jenny's question, and now you're at this part. The central banking system, like you were mentioning, the Federal Reserve Bank, the Banking of International Settlements, City of London, all that stuff. So can you please explain, like right now, this fiat debt system that we're on, and we're borrowing the money and we're paying the interest on it. And what's happening, it sounds like we're going into a decentralized system, no CBDCs or central banking token that is controlled by the federal and the banking system. Can you explain what the RLUSD will be in the future, or what already is now, and the USDC and future H bar USD, and
sure,
what's going on with Amazon and Google too, so that people can understand what the difference is between a centralized and a decentralized system?
sure. Happy to. And I think that's very, very important because we have this, everything revolves around the idea of an asset or a liability, an IOU or a you owe me. If a dollar is what a dollar is supposed to be, it's an asset. It doesn't have any attachments to it. It doesn't have an obligation. It doesn't have an implied contract to give away 20% of your value every year to the mothership, or that if you're going to use the asset, you have to take 6 vaccines a year. I mean, there's no implicit contract. If we have unalienable rights to assets and property, then period, there should be no attachment to it. To prove that the Federal Reserve note is a contract, when we use this IOU, this debt instrument, we interact and spend money and take a direct deposit and go out and fill up our gas tank with these contracts, these Federal Reserve notes. The implicit contract is that all the terms and conditions that come with usage of that money goes along with the usage of the dollar. So IRS, income tax, registering your car, property taxes, got to have your kid in school, all of this crap comes along because it's all attached to this fiat encumbrance system that has nothing to do with life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, or unalienable rights. Think about this. The word lien is in the middle of the idea unalienable rights. Who gets to put a lien on my life, my kid's life, my house, my car, my income, my creativity, my songs, my anything? If I go out and build a business, go out and build a band, sing a song, grow some corn, if I own the land, I ought to have unalienable rights. The Federal Reserve System takes away those unalienable rights and it inserts itself in the middle between us and our property and lays claim to it. And it perverts it and it deflates it and debases it and encumbers it and creates everything in our life dependent on their man-made piece of shit garbage contracting control system known as a fiat dollar. In the Bible, they call it filthy lucre. People can either worship God, which is truth and freedom, or they can worship money and mammon and materialism and its money systems. And it's the guys can chase the gold and the girls and the glory. And, we go run on the treadmill as fast as we can. So we get a bigger house and a higher net worth and more followers or a better title or more fame. Or we can worship, our creator and why we're here to do what we're supposed to do. But if you worship the wrong thing, you're going to get caught up in the snare. That's really at the end of the day why Jesus flipped over the money changer tables, because you got the money changers screwing the people, giving them 10 cents on the dollar at the shekel exchange during Holy Week, hosted by the church in the temple. Jesus saw how the whole system was set up and rigged, and people were getting screwed and taken advantage of. And they'd come from all these different countries. They didn't have a choice. They didn't know what they didn't know, and the bankers were screwing everybody. He flipped the tables over. And 5 days later, he's hanging from a tree because the church people and the money changers got really mad and went to the politicians, who then had a little sham trial and killed him. But he saw what was going on. And so what we have to do is disentangle ourselves from this debt enslavement and wealth extraction system, which is central banking. And to go from centralization to decentralization requires us to somehow or another take our autonomy and our sovereignty and our unalienable rights, put them all together in a system that allows us to have what our birth certificate as a nation allows us to have. Our birth certificate was a Declaration of Independence. It was a covenant love letter to God that said, look, before we sign this thing, we know that all of our rights come from you, Father. We appreciate you. We love you. We thank you. We have all of our rights are unalienable, and we start here. No one has a right to, as long as I don't hurt you or kill you or steal from you, and you don't do that to me, I have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness without any permission slips required, no Gary Gensler required, no Jerome Powell required, no busybody homo. All of this stuff that we live with is anathema to what our founders had in mind. So how do we kill the corporation and get back in the direction of unalienable? Well, you got to get rid of the fake money system that controls everything. And I find it ironic that Trump is talking about getting rid of the Federal Reserve chairman for cause, because this clown has built a $2.5 billion new Federal Reserve building, which, by the way, the Taj Mahal cost about $2 billion to build. This castle, this monument to the money gods, way over budget. The Federal Reserve is never accountable to anyone. The books have never been audited. They create money out of thin air. They own all the member banks, starting with JP Morgan and going down. And we're all in debt enslavement. And this guy is building a $2.5 billion entity. And because the corporation owns the bank in the city of London, owns the corporation, or owned the corporation known as United States of America, Inc., well, the president of the United States is just an administrative title holder. He's like a show pony as far as they're concerned. The real power is the bankers. And the president of the bank is an employee of the NGO known as the Federal Reserve, and the administrative civilian that's running this little political thing that to make us feel like we still have a country, to make us feel like we still have an election, and we still get to appoint our elected leaders, and they're not inserted. When push comes to shove, we've heard Galen Greenspan say it, we've heard Jerome Powell say it. The president can't fire me because he doesn't have the authority. Well, were we ever taught that the President of the United States wasn't the highest law enforcement officer on the planet in any textbook? But when push comes to shove, we're finding out that the president, according to the Federal Reserve Chairman, has no power and no authority to hire the president of the bank, known as the Federal Reserve. If that's not enough evidence to let people understand that the nature of who owns who and who has more power, the way this system has been set up, there's no other way to interpret this other than the most powerful man in America has always been the Federal Reserve Chairman, can't be touched by the president, can't be fired by the president, and works for the NGO bank, not the United States Constitution, and not we the people, and not the president of the United States. The Federal Reserve Chairman is not part of the executive branch, not part of the judicial branch, not part of the legislative branch. He's an entity unto himself. And unless we extract this asshole and his power and his bullshit fractional debt enslaving monetary system and show them out the door, we can't get our country back. We can't have a sovereign nation. So the RLUSD is a one-to-one back sound money instrument. It's a real Ripple Labs is what the RL stands for. Ripple Labs US dollar. Ripple Labs bought a company called Standard Custody. Standard Custody went through all the processes to become a trust company and got regulatory approval from the New York Department of Financial Services, which is the most rigorous compliance, money management, if you will, regulator, not only in America, but probably in the world. But Ripple and Standard Custody went through all of those hoops. They got approval to issue RLUSD stablecoins predicated on there being at least a one-to-one or more backing behind every single RLUSD stablecoin ever put into circulation. There has to be 100% or more of actual assets backing that RLUSD. And on a monthly basis, there has to be a fully compliant and fully audited report proving every single month that if there's 500 million or 500 billion, doesn't matter how many RLUSD are out in circulation, there has to be an exact amount or more of T-bills, treasuries, notes, gold, or some tier one asset that meets the compliance standards of the New York Department of Financial Services. Why is this important? Because sound money with one-to-one backing that's audited, that's transparent and provable, kills the idea. It eliminates fractional reserve lending. You can't just create RLUSDs out of thin air. You can't just, I deposit $5,000 and they loan out 25,000 RLUSD because that's the way they set the system up. The idea of fractional reserve lending, creating RLUSDs out of thin air, is impossible. It cannot happen. So there has to be one-to-one backing and collateral behind every, some people call it the Ripple Labs USD. Some people say it's a real US dollar. Some people say it's a regulated liability US dollar. But however you want to call it, it's sound money, it's provable, it's inspectable, and it's audited, and it can't be manufactured out of thin air without actual hard collateral behind it. And the most important thing is the collateral that's behind the RLUSD is not a lien on my labor. It's not a lien on my life. It's not a lien on my income. It's not a lien on my capital gains taxes. It's not a lien on that's imposed on me in excise taxes because I make too much money or I bought a Lamborghini. There is no human factor collateralization of the RLUSD. The liabilities of the Federal Reserve Bank, they want their money and they don't give a damn how they get their money. And so the politicians put taxes on us in every way possible in order to pay the bankers back their usury interest that they say that we owe them. So the RLUSD is a modern version of quantum cryptography, auditability, transparency, and soundness, where every RLUSD means that there's actual assets behind it. And now Russia or the Philippines or Japan or Italy or Argentina doesn't have to worry about, is this a Nancy Pelosi dollar? Is this just a bunch of hot air? Is this an instrument that's not worth the paper it's written on? Is this a illegitimate asset? Is it stable? Why am I going to trust this US dollar if I know there's $37 trillion behind it and the math doesn't add up and America can never stand good on these things they're issuing? That's where we are right now. But in the future, if everybody knows America's got $10 trillion in circulation. They got $10 trillion in assets. They got a GDP that's growing. They got an economy that's growing. They've got assets in a sovereign wealth fund. Then nobody has to question whether that $20 bill is going to be any good or not because everybody kind of knows. And if everybody can kind of have an idea that if, or belief that a 20 equals a 20 equals a 20, whether it's Japan or America or Europe, because it's a sound money thing that's verifiable through inspection and it's not a debt instrument. Now we've leveled the playing field and everybody in every country can interoperate and they can be their best. They can be their most creative. They can design, they can work, they can create farms, they can sell farming, they can be a gig worker in India and get paid by the minute. You can tip somebody a penny for an article if you like it. You can, pay somebody a penny a minute while you're listening to their streaming video content. And if you don't like it and you hit stop, the money stops. If we have a way and a methodology to have sound money and technological advancements that allow us to abundantly share money and wealth like oxygen, then think about how that changes the world. I did a post yesterday, if you want to follow me or look it up on my timeline, where it talks about when you're able to transfer wealth at less than a penny around the world and people can interoperate like a gig worker in India that's doing computer programming or a farmer in Kenya that wants to sell its vegetables to someone in the UK or again streaming video at a half a penny a minute, or whatever the terms may be. People will do that. It's akin to when we used to carry around a bag phone and we had to pay $1 a minute for prime, or $1.20 for prime time, and 95 cents for non-prime time. And everybody was cautious. And then it went to unlimited talk, text, and data for $35 a month. And what happened? It became like minutes were free and people started communicating, and the cost went down. The volume of cell phone minutes went through the roof, and the revenue to cell phone companies exploded. There was this explosion of GDP growth, communications, collaboration, because people used a resource that was almost free, or they felt like it was free, to talk and share and communicate and ideate and grow. Well, what happens when we apply that concept to money? What happens when money becomes almost free to move around the world? And what happens if you can go to work and get paid into your wallet? Every minute you're at work and you're on the clock, what if your pay was just dripping into your wallet instead of having to wait every 2 weeks? What if the ability to move money was free and abundant, and the utilization of money exploded like we did cell phone minutes? And the abundance, our economy grew the way our economy grew when we started communicating more. The models are exactly the same. If we make the cost of sharing money and moving money and transferring money next to free, we're going to have the same effect as what happened when we went from those bag phone cellular $1.50 a minute bills to $35 flat rate. The same exact sort of phenomenon is going to take place this world over. But it happens without centralized, debt enslaving assholes running that system.
Amen. Amen to that. Rob, I've got about 10 more minutes. I do have a couple hands here. Do you want to take these questions?
Please, fire
Okay.
away.
Oh no, you're good. Blue Fact, your mic is unmuted. Then after Blue, go ahead, Tina Q. Go ahead, Blue.
Thank you, Jenny. It's good to hear from you. Rob, just real quick, could you give me a how would, for example, Bitcoin would survive, in your opinion, and or how Bitcoin wouldn't survive, in your opinion, just in a quick synopsis? And I know you talk with like the Zach Ricker, who's a great. You talk with, or you got Coach JV out there. One's like, hey, go with the Bitcoin. And then, of course, one's like, yeah, Pena told him, as soon as you know who does it, it's going to drop like a light. Now, I know all the negatives to both, but I'm just getting your opinion on how it could survive, and your opinion why, obviously, no way, everything we already know. Thanks, Rob. It's good to hear from you.
Hey, Blue Fact, thank you for the question, brother. Look, some things have to change, in my opinion. If you know there's the old adage out there that says, as it's configured right now, if everybody in the world wanted to use Bitcoin as a method of payment, which originally it said it was about peer-to-peer money payments between people, down with the bank, we don't need the bankers. The way it's configured from a mining standpoint and an energy standpoint, and a commission, if you will, or paying the miners standpoint, if everybody in the world wanted to use Bitcoin for a payment, everybody could do 3 transactions in their life. So from a scale, ability to conduct business, to go and buy a cup of Starbucks coffee with it, from a payments protocol standpoint, as Bitcoin is configured today, it's useless. It can't be used. It can't even be considered. Now, could it be a store of value? Like if you had only 21 million Model Ts and there's never going to be another Model T, and over time you think the value of Model Ts is going to go up? There's your store of value argument. Does it capture a lot of energy and a lot of creativity and a scarce resource? But if it's backed by nothing other than scarcity, then what is actually the collateral other than just more people wanting a scarce resource? If there's no tier one asset, if there's no gold, if there's no silver, if there's no collateral that stands behind the limited supply. Well, XRP's got a limited supply. You know, it's got a utility and a use case. It's basically a Jetson. Remember the old cartoon movie, The Jetsons, where they flew around spaceships point to point? The utility of XRP is its functionality in the protocol. It's not the token itself, but it's the value that it brings to the world and moving value across this system in a trusted, accountable, atomic, and efficient way, so that as these cell phone minutes explode and everybody starts thinking it's free to use money, and that we're finding innovative new ways to share value and collaborate and create businesses, XRP is going to be that type of token spaceship that allows this value to go back and forth from person to person, point to point, and entity to entity. So there's the utilization and the use case of this XRP being a neutral bridge token that has the ability to transport and ledger and settle people's property the world over 24/7, 365. If Bitcoin were to figure out somehow or another to be there's a wrapped Bitcoin, or Bitcoin could be the underlying token that somehow or another could transport itself across the XRP ledger and gain the efficiency and gain the utility and gain something other than what it has right now on a standalone basis, I think it's going to have struggles for adoption. I did a report today and put it out on my timeline that shows that, Ripple's up about 455x in value and price since President Trump was inaugurated in January of 2017. Bitcoin's up 155x. So you have got almost a 5 or 6 times. I forgot what the number was. It's on my timeline, but Ripple XRP has outperformed Bitcoin 6x since President Trump was sworn into office. But if you were to listen to the media or the business reports or read the Wall Street Journal or go online, you wouldn't know that, would you? Would anybody know that? Like, Bitcoin went from $1,000 when Trump was inaugurated to 118,000. That's 118x. Ripple went from like 0.00642 cents to $2 or $3.07, whatever it is right now. It's 475 fold increase versus 118 increase. But if you were to listen to the media or the bankers or the folks that are in the Bitcoin mafia, Ripple's a shit coin. It doesn't have any value. They're dumping on people. It doesn't do anything. Bitcoin's the godfather. And if you use anything else other than Bitcoin, you're an idiot. Well, unfortunately, that's not the way technology and math and value is going to move around the world in the next 100 years. It's going to be moved cryptographically with quantum computers and AI at the speed of thought or the speed of light, and value is going to transport around the world. And Bitcoin's going to have to get its act together to be able to make that happen, or it's going to get left behind. Just like we had Mozilla was the first web browser, and I think Chrome is like the 18th web browser. Just because you're first doesn't mean you get to stay the best forever. The Model T was
Amen.
Model T was a great car, but I'll take a Porsche 911 Turbo right now any day.
Amen to that, Rob. Thank you. All right, Tina Q, go ahead. You're my last question. I've got an appointment, everybody, so I've got to cut this off after Tina. But go ahead, Tina.
Hi, Rob. Hi, everybody. Hi, Jenny. Hi, Santino.
Hello.
All right. I don't know if I'm just plain stupid or I heard Stellar earlier say that you can use XRP as leverage for like loans, which I understand that. But where, like, if we're going to buy a house, Rob, or we're going to buy a car, car manufacturers have their own banks. Ford has Ford Credit, Lincoln has Lincoln Credit or whatever. And then these mortgage companies, are we going to just have two? Because I've been following Polte, and he's only talking about Fannie Mae and the other one, Fannie Mae
Freddie Mac. Freddie
and
Mac.
Freddie Mac. So is this going to be the only companies that we're going to go through to get mortgages? And
No, 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 no,
like,
no.
what I don't understand is because we know a lot of these lenders are bad. So how's that going to work? And not everybody has XRP. So that's what my question is. Maybe I'm just not understanding the whole big picture.
Oh, you know what? I'm so glad you asked this question, and it's totally understandable. Look, we go through 12 years of school, and they don't teach us how to balance a checkbook. They don't want us to know how money works. They don't even want us to know how to define what money is. They just want us to be good workers, use their system, pay our taxes, and do the work. Okay? So, first of all, let's separate two terms here. Leverage and collateral. Okay. If you have assets and you wanted to put something up in lieu of and borrow against your own assets, you could do that. If you wanted to put something out and stake it and let someone else, pay you for the right to stake your assets so they could borrow against it, you could make money doing that. Leverage assumes that you do have an asset, but you're doing it through contracts and permissions and you're paying interest back where you're not benefiting from the interest at all. Only the person, that is charging you interest on your assets is. So this whole idea of what is money, what is debt, what's a loan, how are loans going to be originated, and under what terms can they be? Can we do this in a sound money lending system without usury? Could we use credit unions for what credit unions are for and have Trump had posted something on the US debt clock about all loans in the future being between 0 and 3% and being issued as close to the community as possible through a system of credit unions, at low interest rates instead of this fractional reserve centralized top down, you know, loan shark business model that we've all lived with our entire lives. So we are going to have a revolution of understanding what money is, how to be our own banker, how to borrow against ourselves or stake or whatever token, whatever asset. It can be gold, it can be silver, it can be treasury bills or bonds, it could be XRP or XLM or HBAR. But when we begin to hold assets, then we're going to have to learn a whole new mindset about what does that mean? What is money? How do I grow it? How do I keep it? How do I borrow against? How do I become my own bank instead of having to go to the local finance factories and understand how the whole thing works and, you know, charge us at the end of the day silly, ridiculous amounts of money that we shouldn't be paying, but only for our lack of knowledge do we become these debt slaves where we have to continually work and work and work just to break even, just to pay the bills. That's not what we were put on this earth to do, is to work and toil and figure out some mathematical problem every day that we wake up as to how can I work harder to serve my debt masters. There's a different master we're supposed to be serving. And it doesn't start with the word B for banker. But if we don't get ourselves out of this trap, then we go looking for others to solve our problems and lend us money for our consumption needs or mortgage needs. It's going to take some time, but we're going to transition faster than many might think out of this debt mentality, debt slave mindset to a free, sovereign, you know, unalienable individual with the right to, biblical law says we should all be thinking about wealth for our kids, two generations ahead of us, not just how do I spend whatever I make and how do I just barely pay the bills and, you know, die at the same time I spend my last dollar. That's not the goal. That's not the mindset of abundance. That is the that is a derivative of the system that they've stuck us in and taught us that all we're supposed to do is follow the rules, work as hard as we can, pay the bills we're told to pay, and just be good little boys and girls.
Generational wealth, right, Rob?
Generational wealth, and we have to have generational freedom. But most importantly, we have to all start with answering the question, who am I and whose am I? What laws apply? What sovereign, spiritual, timeless, immutable, and indestructible lies are real? And what's all the other bullshit?
Amen.
Rob?
Amen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Real quickly, Stellar. I've got an appointment I've got to get to, so I'm already kind of a little bit late. So I have to end this, everybody. I do apologize, but like I said, I have a day gig that I got to go to, so I have an appointment I've got to get to. So Rob, thank you so much for coming in here. I'm glad you were able to make it. I know you're a busy guy. I appreciate you being here always. We'll try to get you back on. We've been really good about getting Rob on here about every 2 to 3 weeks. So Rob, if can we make that happen again?
I would love to. I would love to. So just let me know what works best for you, and we'll do our back and forth dog and pony show and make it happen.
All right. Thank you, Rob. And everybody, thank you here for joining. And come back at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I've got another show over here on X with our wonderful Silk. If you guys have not been in her spaces or heard her, she's amazing. She's funny. She's a good time. So come join us 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Same place right here. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Santino. Thank you, Stellar. Great job. We held it down until Rob came in here. So it was a great space. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Jenny. Sorry again for being late, but really enjoyed every minute with you.
No worries. You're not fired yet. Just kidding. All right. Love you all. God bless you. Thank you.
Take care.
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.